Elias to get ready. You know, he's got to have the video camera.
And actually, Michelle,
yes.
if you want to go back to the place where my brother is scratched. So we actually took everything out and put it ready in.
Is it a convertible?
No, it's not a convertible.
Oh shucks, then I'll just have to wait.
So at this time, I'm being full of surprise. He doesn't know I'm doing this. But I would like Elias to come up and introduce our speaker for tonight.
I wasn't prepared for that, man. Are you kidding me?
Eric is full of surprises today.
Wow.
Come on up.
You're going to do that to me?
Yep.
Because you have no idea who she is, that's why.
Oh, I know who Rosalinda is. I just want to hear you say it.
Okay, I'm going to introduce Rosie Zepeda, and I'm recording myself incognito because I can actually handle that. So I first met Rosie at Cesar Plata's event. It was, I believe, at the Reed Hillview Airport. It must have been about, what, 6 months ago, Rosie, or so? Maybe 5 months ago, right, Ron? Because Ron, you introduced me to Rosie. And she had this charismatic personality about her that I'm like, whoa, man, she's as crazy as I am. She's one of those in-your-face type of people, but she has a lot of love and she means well. So, you know, we got to know her, connected with her on Facebook, started inviting her to the weekly events in San Jose. But you know, she's an awesome person. She is a health coach, business and health coach, and you're with My Advantage. I can't remember the name of your company.
All Z Enterprises.
You're All Z Enterprises, but you're what's the name of your company?
It's Take Shape for Life.
Take Shape for Life, right? Okay, you're with Take Shape for Life, and then you also have your coaching company as well too. So at this point, let's welcome our speaker this week, or this month, Rosie Zepeda.
So,
don't do that again.
Eric, I'll need you to pass these out.
Anything
Not
can
right
you.
now.
Just let me know when.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So, the title of what I'm going to talk to you today is creating optimal health. And who can define for me what optimal health is, or what it means to you?
Getting up in the morning.
Okay, and of course, yes.
Being free.
Being able to do the things you want to do when you want to do them.
Okay, someone else, the third person?
Feeling good all the time.
Feeling good all the time. I like that. I like that.
Feeling good with no pills.
Oh, thank you. Yes, feeling good with no pills. So, before I go over the agenda, I came out of the corporate world, so I'm always thinking, how would I feel when I'm sitting in that chair, and what do I want to learn, what do I want to get at? So I usually try to, and of course, as a business coach, you keep things very succinct to make sure that, you know, people walk away with something of value. Before I go over that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I was in the corporate world probably for about 12 years. Prior to that, I was a teacher in the South Bronx. Teach for America. I got my master's in education. So about 2 years ago, I almost died. And it wasn't because a doctor came up to me and said, hey, by the way, you have this and you have that. It was really a succession of events. So in 2007, I had my first surgery. And from that point on, my health greatly went downhill. By the end of 2008, I was getting palpitations. And doctors had no idea what I had. I had every test imaginable. The insurance company didn't really like me, so it was very expensive. And then in 2009, February 2009, I had my second surgery, which was, you know, to take my appendix was almost going to burst, and I knew instinctively that something was wrong with me. Well, so 2 months later, my general doctor called me in and said, I think we found the problem. And so she says, I think you need to come in. So you know when you hear you need to come in? It's not a good thing. So I instinctively knew at that point that it wasn't a good thing because I was not okay. So by then I was having trouble breathing, I was having palpitations, I had a heart monitor for like 24 hours. They said so they had ruled out everything. But what happened was that during the second surgery for the appendicitis, my heart rate had really jumped up, and my blood pressure had jumped up, and the incision, which had started closing, and it took a while to close, so this is not my third surgery, so I'm a pro at knowing how the incisions go, just opened up all over again. And so it wasn't until I went to the urgent care that I said, I am not going to leave here if you could bring a cop, you could bring anyone you want, but you're going to run every single test because I know that there's something very detrimentally wrong with me. Well, it turns out that I had a tumor in my adrenal gland, and so I was now in a catch-22. So the catch-22 was that if they didn't take it out, I was going to die. So I was already having kind of like mini cardiac. But if they took it out, then I could die at the operation, operation table. So that event, I share that with you because that event really changed my life, to say the least. Then we didn't know if it was cancerous. So I tell people, and some people in my family currently have cancer, and I tell people that I know when I hear they have cancer, they're very ill, and I tell my story because I really genuinely feel that it was meant for me to live, to give people perspective. When you're told you're going to die, and then you have to wait a month to see if it's cancerous, believe me, the cancer doesn't matter at that point. You're just happy you're alive. You just realize, okay, I'm going to be able to deal with the cancer. Woohoo! Okay, so I have cancer, I'll be able to deal with it. But when they tell you have to say goodbye to your family and you don't know if you're going to wake up, then it really, really changes everything. So one of the things that I asked myself was at that point, am I living in optimal health? Am I living my vision? Am I living, where it is in the space that I want to? And I realized at that point that I wasn't. So I left my corporate job and I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I looked at my skill set and I realized that my skill set was I enjoyed helping people, and I was very good in terms of strategizing and giving people an idea and a vehicle in terms of where to go. So that's a little bit about me, and the reason I tell that story is because a lot of the times, when you go in and hear speakers, you hear what they have to present, but you really don't know anything about them. And I really feel that you really have to know, and I'm with the philosophy that you really need to know where people come from and where they've been before you actually make judgments on them, and also even just to do business with them. So what happened? What happened to me? I mean, I was a health junkie. I took care of myself, and I did everything I needed to do. I wasn't living in optimal health. This is what I would do. I'd go to the gym, and I'd exercise, and I was adrenaline junkie. And then, I work really, really, really hard. I stress out, and then I crave carbs, So I was never really overweight or anything. It was just I was always doing things in extreme, okay? So I wasn't really in the space that I needed to be in order to create optimal health. So what I hope to cover with you and for you guys to get out of this is really what are the differences between looking at desired outcome and problem solving, discovering the importance of structure tension, and some of these are going to help you beyond health. They're going to help you in your business as well. You setting goals through SMART goal. Who here has heard of SMART goal? Okay, good. So for those of you who've heard it, it'll get reinforced for those of you who haven't heard it. And also, the key to discipline is really the relationship between the primary goal and the secondary goal. So obviously, I had these goals and I had these ideas of creating health for myself, but I really wasn't living in that true space of that relationship between my primary goal and my secondary goal. So I want to pose a question to all of you. Why do you think that people in this country are not healthy? And when I say healthy, I'm not just talking about weight. I'm talking about medications. I'm talking about people just kind of going along their lives and, maybe not really feeling good when they get up, or maybe it's difficult to get up in the morning. So why do you think that people are not healthy?
Avoidance of pain.
Yes. Okay. So that's one.
Sad.
Yeah, the SAD diet, which I call the, food as a disease instead of, promoting health.
That actually stands for Standard American Health.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Who else?
Which is processed foods.
Okay.
Instant gratification.
Okay. So all of those are valid. And so here are my thoughts. So we basically have a medical system that is reactive and not proactive. And I can attest to that. I can tell you that I had to fight with my group. I would have never ended up at Stanford, and I would not be here. I would have died if I had not fought for myself while I was ill. Because at that point, the group knew I was too expensive. But once I said, I'm going to get a lawyer, believe me, things changed. And I ended up at Stanford, and I ended up costing them like between $125,000 and $150,000. But, so a lot of it has to do with the fact that too much processed foods, okay? No set of goals for our health. Many of us don't really work on ourselves. We work with everyone else except ourselves, okay? So a lot of us have businesses, and when we wake up in the morning, many of us maybe go to the computer to check email, but what is the number one thing we should be taking care of? Ourselves. Because with it, I always tell people, so the body is very similar to a car. So if you don't put water in your car, if you don't change the oil, it doesn't take you anywhere. And what happens is that we also live in a culture that really promotes that. So instant gratification, I'm hungry, and there's no planning of what am I actually going to eat that's going to be beneficial to my body. Oh, I don't have time for that. So there's all these things, but I would have to say that if really, with all these things put together, stress is a huge proponent of disease. And a lot of the times we get wrapped up in the stress and we don't take steps back. And part of it is because many of us have not created a roadmap for better health. The other thing that I want to mention is that the language that we use is very important. You know, many of us, and I personally don't believe in this, when people say, I'm on a diet, I go, good luck. Because a diet is temporary, and if we use language such as diet, that means that we only believe in that small period in order to get healthy. But if you say, you know, I'm walking more, or I'm doing this, and you attach it to, which, you know, I'm going to be talking about motivation and goals and all that, then it really starts having substance. But many of us don't do that. I mean, I didn't do that. I just thought, oh, I'm a health nut. You know, I know this about health, and I know that, and I go to the gym, and I do that. And we think we're really okay. But if we don't intend to have good health, when we wake up in the morning, and I can tell you that I'm a believer in that now. When you become extremely ill, if you really believe you're going to die, you will die. When you're very ill, if you believe you're going to live, you will live. Because actually, you know, there's a whole mind, you know, body connection. So let's talk about motivation. When I think of motivation, I don't think of positive thinking. I don't think of, well, you know, I'm going to use these words now and instead of to sort of psych myself, or some of what I call emotional manipulation. What motivation really is, and how it relates to health or how it can relate to your business, is that we have been conditioned to really think about motivation in terms of getting us from A to B, or, you know, A to Z. And we have really been conditioned to really resolve problems. And I can tell you, having been in the corporate world, you're always resolving the problems. You know, you're always, we need to resolve this. Where's the committee? Where's the team, right? And so that is a very reactive lifestyle. And that lifestyle, you know, seeps into our private life. We don't realize it, but it really does. So instead, when you think of motivation, you should always start thinking of creating. If you think in terms of creating, I am going to create health. So I'll give you an example. If you need to lose weight, or you need to get off medication, instead of thinking, oh, God, I feel so heavy. God, these pants, now I have to go and buy more clothes. Ladies, you know what that's like. Oh, I need the 3 different sizes, you know. instead of thinking that way and then saying, oh, okay, next week after the holidays, I'm starting to diet. So that's being really problem-centered. It's not being creating. So, but if we switch our thinking to how do I create what I want, right? And we'll talk about in terms of how to get you where you want. How do we create good health? Okay, I want to get off these medications. My intention is to get off these medications. How do I do that? Okay, and then you start focusing on those steps, and we'll go over that. But it really starts with that. The moment we start, so the moment I can tell you that I decided that there was no way in hell I was going to die, I can tell you that everything about me changed from that moment. If I would have resigned myself to, okay, bye everybody. You know, I still ended up doing that, but you really, there comes a point where you have to tell yourself, as I did, I'm not going to die. And the moment I did that was when the group said, no, we're going to send you, we're not going to send you to Stanford, we're not going to prove it. And I was turned down twice, and they said, we're going to open half your torso, because that's the only surgeon we have, because we don't have laparoscopic surgeons, so sorry. The moment I made a decision, I said, I need to create my destiny right now, even if it means that I don't make it, I'm creating it. So that really changes everything. So if you want to lose weight, you really have to intend and really have to create and create that atmosphere so that happens. But if you're constantly so you have to think, our brain is like, you know, it's been doing one thing for a long time. It's only been for a short while that we've really been civilized. So our brains are always thinking of tigers and bears and, oh my God, this is going to happen. And oh my, that's how we're wired. So if you know that that's how we're coming from, then now you have to, how many of you have heard of brain plasticity? Yeah. So famous doctor, Dr. Amen, really talks about plasticity. He says, you're not born with a brain that you were born with. You can actually change your process, but you really have to know, how to do that. So what I want you to do now, Eric, you want to pass this out? I'm going to pass out a paper. What I want you to do there, and this is what I call, this is to build the structure tension, is the reality. You have to start being honest with yourself and start, where are you right now? What is my current reality? So you need to accept first, where is it that you are in terms of your reality? So as it relates to this, your health, if you wanted to do this for business, this also works, this exercise works very well.
So what is reality?
What is that? Nice. So where it says my current health score, if you had to score yourself from a 1 to 10, what's the score you would give yourself right now? So just take a couple of minutes. If you don't know what your BMI is, yeah. If you don't know what your BMI is, that's fine. Try to estimate. But you always have to start off with your reality. Where am I? Can I take it? I'm not a believer in positive thinking because I think positive thinking really doesn't change your thought process if you only deceive yourself. So I think it's best to start from a place. If things are not good with you, they're not. And then that way, you're going to bring about more change.
What is my current reality? How do I know what my reality is?
So your reality...
Voices do I listen to?
Yeah.
There's so many.
Wow, man.
Yeah, that's what I call noise. And believe me, I know what that's like. So for a lot of us, we have created what we call these beliefs. And sometimes they interject with each other. And that's what I call the different voices. And really, your reality is really being in touch with yourself, being honest with yourself. So if you're on medication, I think you and I were talking about the same thing. If you, let's say, are not happy where you are, or try to envision where is it that you want to go.
I was to a point where I was going to go to either a 42 size pants or I was going to do something to make it flip.
Right. So I'll give you an example of my current reality. I used to run marathons, and I used to run, and then I became very ill, and of course, after that you think, oh God, I'm never going to be able to do that again. So my current reality is that, you know, because of all the surgeries, I still have a lot of issues that I have to deal with. Not big ones, but, you know, just, you know, it's like your body getting hit by, you know, a huge truck several times. So my reality is that I'm still, you know, I'm not able to do the marathons. And when I visualize the reality I want to create is that I will be back and I will be running again. So yeah, exactly. So whereas if I didn't accept my reality and I was like, oh, you know, I'm okay. So one of the things that being really sick really does to you is that it really puts you in that reality you need to make. All those voices go away. So it puts you in that reality. And if I wasn't in that reality, I'd say, well, I feel great. Okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to start running and, you know, do the things that I used to do before and be super athletic. But I'm conscious now that everything is one step at a time and that everything takes a little bit of time, and then maybe in a year or 2 years, I'll be able to then do a marathon or prepare for a marathon. Okay? Does anyone want to share what their current reality is? Yes, Nikki.
I think I have my elbow and ache, so I'm working on it. However, I told my coach, I think it's a 3 because I just had surgery, so it shouldn't all be so duckies and buddies if I just had surgery.
Yeah. You have to be nice to your body when you have surgery. Believe me, I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, so I mean, I do a lot for my health, and I discovered my challenge because I work on my health. No one discovered it for me, and because you have to champion your own self. Well, like I said, if I just had surgery, maybe it's not so perky as I would like to think. I don't just do that.
And what is the optimal health that you would like to get to?
Fit, trim, and balance.
I like that word that you use, balance. Because a lot of people, like I was when I was an adrenaline junkie, I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to do that. And I wasn't balanced. I can tell you right now. I thought I was like, woo, I'm healthy, ooh, I'm great. And it's like, stop, everything stopped. I was not in balance at all. Anyone else would like to share? Okay, so this is something, this exercise is something that you can use also for your business. I would really advise that you use this every month to really, so all of us will get up in the morning and shower, but in the morning that's when we take stock of how am I feeling today, and I'm going to be good to my body today in ways that, you know, create that reality for you for that day. Okay, you have to really commit yourself to doing that every day, because I can tell you that I didn't get sick. They told me that tumor was there 8 to 10 years, so I can tell you that it didn't happen overnight. I mean, it really didn't happen. It really happened because I kept pushing myself to the limit, and of course there's other factors of stress and whatever, but it didn't happen overnight.
And it's been with us a long time, you just weren't listening.
Oh no, we don't listen. Yeah. Especially us type A personalities.
Oh, no, yeah.
You're not saying that you have the control over developing the adrenal tumor, were you?
No, what I'm saying is that
Your body's hot.
I looked at myself in terms of some of the things that I contributed to that. So of course, a lot of it is, you know, genetic and, you know, predispositions.
Louise has a book about health and issues and how your health indicates some of your issues. Well, hear me out. Both a fellow advisor of mine and I both broke our legs, and we both hated the broker-dealer we were at. We couldn't stand where we were at. And one of the things it says in those biofeedbacks is perhaps you can't stand where you are, and that's part of what contributed to you breaking the leg. And I'm not saying it all is, and I'm not saying you can prevent everything, because I don't think everybody asks for everything, but I think it can contribute. And we were both in denial that we had to leave that company. And we were both there in crutches going, how come, because we were totally different, how come we both have this commonality? And we both left the companies within a year, and we both rushed out. Even though she went to a different broker-dealer, it's not like we had to go together.
There's some studies that have come out that have shown, and of course this is not for everyone, but these are actually medical studies. So one of the things that I became really good at was reading medical journals, because what I had was very unique. And so I really got, I mean, once I made the point that there was no way in hell I was going to die, it really drove right into that instead of going, oh my God, I'm afraid I'm going to die. And there's some studies that have been done on cancer, and they have shown that a lot of cancers are actually, not all of them, but they're caused because of repressed emotions. Because what happens is that, and I'll just share this with you very briefly, there's also studies that have shown that our emotions, so we are born with certain genes, but our emotions will actually directly affect and change the DNA of our body. They just will. The same way that if someone gets cancer and they truly believe that they're going to die and they give them hope and they're having all these negative emotions, they actually will die. So there's a lot of studies that are being done and having to do with the mind, body connection, and all that. This is not to say, oh, okay, I'm guilty that I got the tumor or whatever. There's different factors, but I can tell you that I worked in a very stressful environment. It was extremely stressful. I had tons of pressure with the type of deals that I was working on, which were multi-million-dollar deals. And it was a do or die, and it was constantly on. So I forced my body to actually be that way, to be reactive, and I never took stock because I was young, so I thought, oh, I'm never going to get sick. So let's talk about SMART goal. So some of you who know what SMART goal is, do you want to share with us, Jeff, what SMART goal is, what it stands for?
SMART goal is, my mind's off of this one. SMART goal: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and it's got a timetable.
So for those of you who didn't get that,
you want to go slower?
Yes, go slower.
It has to be specific. So in other words, I want to get a red car.
Yes.
Okay. And it has to be measurable. Okay, what time frame? What measurable? So what is it going to take to get that? Okay, how many dollars do I have to have in the bank? Okay, is it achievable? Can I afford that $400,000 Ferrari?
Right. So if you can't afford it, it's not achievable.
Yeah, it's not achievable.
Yeah.
Is it realistic? Well, again, if I've never made more than $5 an hour in my life,
you have 6 kids and it's your only car.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, that's not realistic. And there's a timetable. I will have that car within 12 months.
And the timetable has to be realistic also.
Right.
Right.
That's part of the whole realistic game. If I have not made more than $50,000 in my life, trying to buy a $400,000 car in 12 months or in 10 years, that's not very realistic. But setting a timetable on it so that I can, part of that measuring.
Right. So, a lot of us got used to doing this in, our jobs and in our businesses, but we don't apply this to our health. And guess what? If you don't take care of this engine, you have to establish goals for your health, just like you establish goals for everything else that you do. So let's say you have the SMART system down, and let's say, for example, you want to get off your medications, and one of the ways to get off your medications is, that you say, okay, I'm committed, I'm going to create optimum health. And what is my primary vision for that? So just like you have a vision, I hear a lot of these people that have these vision boards and all this other stuff, and they have a vision board for their businesses and all this, and they're going to make all this money and all this other stuff. They have no vision for their health. They really, really don't. And I'm here to tell you that when you become ill, everything stops. Everything stops. And at that point, the things that you cared about, that were important, don't matter. You learn to let go of so many things. You really, really do. So mainly you have to start with the vision. What is it that you want? And create what you want. Primary. Your secondary choice is really always attached to that. So I'll give you an example of that. Your vision is to reach optimum health. Your primary goal is to, get down by 30 pounds. Your secondary choice is you're at this restaurant, every choice that you make in terms of food or in terms of your activity has to be contributed and attached to that vision and to that goal. So we do this very well for our businesses and for other things, but we don't do it for our health. And you know what? I'm here to tell you, it's the same thing. You have to do this. You have to attach, a vision. What is so I'll give you an example. Someone who is getting older and having issues with their knees. And it has to be very measurable, something that you can measure, and it has to be very vivid, not like, oh, I wish I could lose weight. No, it has, I want to lose 30 pounds. Why? Because I want to, you know, if you're grandmother, I want to run around, you know, with the kids, you know, so that I don't get tired. Okay, so what are those choices that I'm going to make? Okay, well, I need to be more active because I know being more active is good for the knees. Okay, so this is a process, and talking about plasticity, this is how you have to retrain your brain. So many times, and I actually have clients that, you know, that they'll say, in the beginning, they'll start off and they'll say, oh, but it's so hard, you know, when the dessert comes. And I'll say, okay, but you're not going to stop eating dessert for the rest of your life. It's just for now. I mean, so let's go back to your vision. Let's go back to your goal. What is it that you want? Okay, remember this is your house. So,
Wear the little dress at the wedding?
do you want to wear the bikini, or do you want to wear the one piece? Yes, Jeff?
Can I make a comment about what you're talking there?
Yeah.
For those of you who didn't know, my daughter was an Olympian. She was a synchronized swimmer. And I learned some very good lessons from her about food. And now, even though she was burning 3,000 calories a day, practicing from sun up to sundown, she still had to monitor what she ate. And some of the things, there was two statements that really stuck out in my mind. One is it worth the calories? Because she knew that if she ate too much or the wrong kind of stuff, she had to work a little harder the next day to burn it off. Even though she's still burning 3,000 calories, she ate 3,500 calories, and some of the girls did eat the 3,500 calories, and they put on a couple extra pounds. And of course the coach got after them, and it was even tougher then, and they had to deny themselves more. The other thing was, looking at the food, they'd say, do I want to put that in my high-performance body? And so those are some things that, you know, I used to chow down a lot as a kid too, and I have to watch what I eat. He'll still have a sweet tooth, but I think about that from time to time. So if that's helpful, I just thought I thought about that just now.
Well, the other thing I want to add to that is I always use the phrase, you know, for people to repeat it in their minds when they're getting temptations is, you know, there's nothing as better tasting than the feeling of fitness. So, I mean, once you've achieved, especially, you know, success from being here to this reality, to the reality you actually want to live, and then reminding yourself, how does that feel? Just the same way as when you have surgery, you have to remind yourself how you were before and realize that you will get there in baby steps. So a lot of it really starts exactly in kind of seeing the consequence, you know, before it actually happens. But I will tell you this, that most people who are actually very unhealthy, it's not what you do once a week that gets you that. It's what you do every single day. And a lot of the times we feel that that actually doesn't add up too much over the years. It adds up to a lot, because every year that we get older, our cells lose their ability to regenerate at a faster speed. So in essence, really starting maybe like around, you know, 25, 26, really that's kind of our bodies start dying. So it's really the maintenance, you know, starts, you know, from there. So, lastly, I always have a lot of people ask me, why a health coach? Well, because, like any coach, and I think that Jack gave a good mention of this, is that a lot of people can't do this alone. A lot of, women that I know that are running, several businesses or have children and whatnot, our society has become increasingly demanding, increasingly stressful, and just like anything else, it's really a guide. It's a guide, it's someone to hold you accountable, but accountable to your own reality you want to create, not the one I created for you, because I don't create it, you create it. And really the value in that is that you really have to ask yourself, do I want to live the rest of my life with possible illness, or do I want to create health and then go into my later years without any touch of illness? So it's really a matter of what it is that you want to create. So my role is really just to guide you there and take you there. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Got a question right here, Leonard.
Ron had a question.
Go ahead, Ron.
I just had a comment. When I was growing up, I was taught to eat everything on your plate.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Horrible.
So especially if you go out to eat at a restaurant.
It's like we're helping there.
And let's say...
Mentality of scarcity.
But the other side of it was, I heard this from a health practitioner that said, if you ate everything on your plate, well, the gist of it was, how much would you pay to not gain the weight if you didn't eat everything? Like, let's say you pay $10 for a meal, and let's say there's a little bit left. Well, would you pay $3 if you didn't gain weight from that last piece that you ate? So it's another way to look at it, to trick your brain.
Right, and it's actually, it is, you know, when I meet people that I know that are not very healthy, I always put things in perspective, and I ask them, how much are you paying for health insurance right now? Oh, well, you know, it's through my company, and it's whatever, $90 a month. Okay, well, if you become ill, just plan on a $100,000 bill. I mean, and if you didn't have insurance, easily $100,000. And that kind of, when people don't want to dedicate to their creating health, believe me, the cost of not doing something, and every year, increases severely. It really, really does. How many of you have seen the Michael Moore movie?
Which one?
Which one?
Sicko.
Yeah.
Sicko. If you get a chance, watch the movie. And I don't, you know, you either have to, you know, you don't have to be a Michael Moore lover or whatever. But the one thing that really related to me was that in terms of the insurance and whatnot, I could tell you that if I would have had cancer, I would have been cut off. So I was very thankful when the actual test came back a month later, showed that I didn't have cancer. But I can tell you with certainty, if I would have had cancer, I would have been cut off immediately, only because of how hard it was for me to seek the actual, and that's because I had insurance, so imagine if I didn't have insurance. You were going to say something else?
As you and I were talking earlier, but changing your mindset. I was at a point where I needed, do I buy 42 pants or do I do something about my weight? So when I have a technical problem that I'm trying to figure out, instead of sitting in front of the computer reading hundreds of forums or thousands of tech notes, I take my experience and my bicycle and I go for a ride. And almost every time, within 20 or 30 minutes, I find a solution in my head.
Yeah. You know, actually, in the meeting earlier,
Get your juices flowing.
yeah. And actually, Dr. Raymond talked about that in plasticity. He says if you're stuck in your head and you're either trying to resolve a problem or something is starting to produce anxiety in you or upset you, the best thing to do is to get up and move.
Get away.
And it actually works. So I was actually talking to someone in the earlier meeting, and that was sharing. She was sharing that with me. That, you know, she gets really frustrated sometimes and trying to resolve an issue with her business, and I can tell you it works miracles. And the reason why it works is because when you get your body moving, it actually starts producing different hormones to your brain.
I don't know why or anything, but I just know it works.
Well, yeah. So I'm telling you that when you move, different hormones are produced. The same reason of if you actually do walking every day and you get into the routine of doing that, or, you know, I'm not a proponent. I used to be like a gym junkie and I would do things really hard, and I'm not a proponent of that because everything has to be a balance. What I do now is I walk. I have a little toy poodle. I have to walk her. She has so much energy. I have to walk her 4 times a day. But you know, I don't do the, you know, like I don't do that anymore. I really don't. It's really more, you know, breathe in and, you know, but I'm exercising the biggest limbs, you know, in my body.
I'm biking to balance on my Bikram yoga, and money manager I met is starting to do Bikram to balance out his massive bike ride. It's this thing in the end. You know, just learn on different things to do different balances.
Yeah.
One final question, then we have to move on,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and then people can come talk to you afterwards.
Oh,
No, I was just going to say, we can take, I don't have them, but
One burning question.
anybody have?
Not word.
How about a comment?
Huh?
A comment.
Sure.
You know, I think a lot of times to start at home. You know, people have different body shape. You know, I understand that. But the thing is, you know, why my kids look at me and say, Dad, I want to be as healthy as you are, right? So I think a lot of times it's just start at home, you know, and I have a friend that work out in the gym together, and he goes like this, you know how big my mom is, how my father is, you know, they are really bad, you know, in like health-wise, said I decided to break it. Because if we just eat what they cook and start doing everything that what they did, it's just gonna pass to the next generation. That's why.
And actually, there's studies that have been shown that the kids right now who are obese, they're actually the next generation. If they have children, they're actually changing the entire gene pool in terms of those genes being passed on. And there were studies that were done during right after famines. People would actually eat a lot, right? And they actually, there's all the studies done on DNA now. They actually changed the DNA. They changed the gene pool based on when food was scarce and when there was plenty of food and people were overeating. So, thank you. If you have any questions, you can come and talk to me.